Yes, we are live. You can start the quiz as well. Start with an introduction.
All right. Hi, guys. After the rousing response for last week's sports quiz, first of all, we would like to thank everyone for that. It was a fantastic response, and we had some really great participants and some really great scores. So, a big shout out to all of you guys for that. With that, we have reached the second quiz of Keep Calm and Carry on our 7 quiz series that is slated to go on for the next few weeks. So today's quiz is an India quiz at Paatal Lok.
Ashwin, hold on. I'm just checking the YouTube. The live hasn't started. So probably it will start only at 8 o'clock. So give it a minute and then start at 8.
All right. So the stream has not gone live.
Yeah. There is some issue.
That's okay.
You are live. It has started. Okay. Probably my mobile issue. You can continue, Ashwin.
All right. So today's quiz is an India quiz. We tried to touch upon all things India. And of course, when you say an India quiz, it's not necessarily limited to stuff from India. Anything that can be remotely traced back to India can feature in this quiz. So that's it. And the format of the quiz is same as the previous quiz. We have a Google Form link which has been circulated, and you can use that Google Form link to update your answers. 20 questions, each carries 1 point. Wherever there are 2-part questions, you get half a point each. That's about it, pretty simple. So looking forward to another hour of exciting quizzing. So I hope you all enjoyed the set as much as we enjoyed setting the quiz for you guys. And without further ado, let's proceed. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Ashwin, you're on mute.
For some reason, I'm still stuck on the title slide. No way.
Now it has moved. I can see the.
All right. Can we go back to the previous slides? Yeah. So a big thank you to the 3 individuals you see on the slide. There's Madhav and Mahendra Balu on the left and right of Nambirajan sir. These two helped us with some questions. So big thank you to you guys. We couldn't have let this happen without you guys. So big thank you. And of course, Nambirajan sir, who has been with us since our previous ventures, supporting us with our streaming quizzes on YouTube. Big thank you to you as well. So with that, we get started and move on to the very first question of the quiz. As we're all from Kerala, all the setters, so we thought we might as well start with a Kerala question. So Chadayamangalam is a village located in the Kollam district of Kerala. It is now famous for a tourism center with the world's largest bird sculpture depicting Jatayu. So you'll see the image in the next slide. The sculpture was designed and sculpted by a certain individual who has had a unique achievement as far as his language was concerned. Recently, the man in the following image, also something you'll see in the next slide, matched this particular achievement. So what was the achievement and who was the designer of that particular sculpture that you'll see in the next slide? Next slide. So this, what you see on your left is the sculpture designed by someone. He had a very unique achievement pertaining to his language, of course. As if you take the other Indian languages into context, there are others with the same achievement. In this same language, the man on the image on your right matched this achievement. So I want who designed the sculpture and what achievement is shared by these two individuals. I need a fairly specific answer for the second part. The funda will not do. Something fairly specific for the second part. And for the first part, I need the name of a person. As simple as that. Something fairly recent, I would say. Starting off with something easy. You need not necessarily be from Kerala to figure this one out. All right, moving on to question number 2. Shivasamudra Falls, located in the Chamarajanagar district of Karnataka, and houses this nation's second ever hydel power station, started in the early 20th century, which is functional to this day. Although the proposal for this thing was submitted in 1894, it took a certain development concerning a different part of the state about 5 years later for the project to be expedited, as it would have required a large amount of power. So what was this project, which also got significant attention in recent years? So in 1894, they submitted a proposal for building a hydel power station. 5 years later, out of the blue, because a certain project was started in a different part of Karnataka, the hydel power station was expedited to meet the power requirements of that particular project. So what project are we talking about? Considerable popular attention in recent years. That should be your clue.
Also, as a minor correction, it's not Shivasamudra, it's Shivanasamudra Falls.
Yeah, sorry about the typo. It's Shivanasamudra Falls. So you can either answer this in 3 words or a 3-letter acronym. Just the name of the place won't do, or just what the project is won't do. Obviously, I need both the name of the what kind of a project this is, as well as the place where this project has happened. All right, moving on to question number 3. Tirutani is a town in Tamil Nadu, which is primarily famous for the Murugan temple that is part of the Aruppadai Veedu. Legend has it that this certain individual, part of a certain trio, was commanded by the deity of this temple to engage in a certain pursuit, and that's why he got into this in the first place. This legend is also seen as the explanation behind why this individual, himself named after Murugan, used an epithet of the deity in all his works. So who is this individual and what epithet are we talking about?
Ashwin, it's Tiruttani.
What?
Tiruttani, not Tiruttani.
Tiruttani, sorry.
Tiruttani, yeah.
Sorry about that. So who is this person from Tiruttani? A very ardent devotee of Murugan. He was part of a certain trio that could be helpful. Pick the right person. The language being Tamil would help you rule out the 2 wrong individuals from the trio. And then you can easily figure out, if you figure out the person, you can easily figure out which epithet of Murugan we are talking about. Two-part answer, each will get you half a point. You can tell me the name of a person and you can tell me the epithet of Murugan. Or you can take a blind shot and write down a random epithet of Murugan if you have no idea what is being discussed, and there is a fair chance that you are right. That being said, moving on to question number 4. T.T. Krishnamachari was independent India's first cabinet minister to have resigned. he introduced a slew of new personal taxes on top of the existing income tax in the annual budget of 1957-58 during his tenure as the finance minister. This led to him being given a comical nickname, which was a wordplay on his own name. So what nickname was thus bestowed upon TTK as a result of these policies? Rahul, do you want to add up?
Yeah, so T.T. Krishnamachari was one of the first cabinet ministers to have resigned in independent India. So in the 57-58 budget, he introduced a number of personal taxes on top of a hefty income tax of about 80%. So this led to him being given a very comical nickname by the critics. So what they did was they took the three letters of his name, the more popular, the shorter name by which he is known. So they took TTK from TT Krishnamachari and gave it a very different nickname, different expansion, and which is all thanks to his exploits in the budget. So just give us what was a comical explanation or comical expansion of TTK that he got as a result of the introduction of the number of income taxes. A very, if you hear it, it sounds a bit cruel, but yeah, it's a bit comical.
If it helps, the idea of this expansion is that it makes life very difficult for businessmen once you introduce all these taxes. So it was akin to performing a certain heinous act of theft. Moving on to question number 5. UP and Bihar are two of the most populous states in India, with the eastern part of UP being the most thickly populated as far as these two states are concerned. This, coupled with the extreme cultural significance of a certain location, falling roughly at the midpoint of these two states, were seen to be important factors in a certain decision from the first half of the previous decade. So what specific decision are we talking about? So when you write your answer for this one, I need the name of a person as well as what decision taken by that person. So to figure this out, think of what location with extreme cultural significance could be the midpoint of UP and Bihar, roughly, of course, not geographically speaking, just for the purpose of, exaggeration, if you will, not too exaggerated, but yeah. Then think of what kind of metrics in India are based upon population or population density. What metrics are a direct function of population? Combine these two and come up with the most probable answer and then pick the most appropriate person in the context. Come up with a fairly explanatory answer. If it helps, this decision came as a surprise to many because the decision should have originally involved a different part of India, given where the individual is from. So, yeah, that was question number 5. Moving on to question number 6. One of the early painters in the Rococo period, better known for his renditions of Venice, Rome, and London with dreamlike effects, had a name that can be divided into 2 parts. The first part of his surname was the name of his father, also a painter, also same as that of a word originating from Latin meaning groove. The second part is a suffix meaning little to distinguish him from his father. So the first part of his surname is also the root word for the surname of a famous Indian, although that name isn't used by his surviving family line. So which artist is this and who is this Indian?
Ashwin, we can't
So-
read the last line. It's hidden.
Yeah. So the last line is, who is this artist? Who is this Indian person? His surviving line descendants no longer use this particular surname, but the surname of this guy means the same thing as the first part of the artist's name. One of the helpful hints here would be the fact that he paints Venice. Venice, among other things, is famous for something specific that could be helpful. Also think of what kind of suffixes could mean little in Italian. Put all that together and come up with a nice artist's name. And then think of what part of that artist's name could be. It's an English translation, of course, not the exact word. The English translation of the root word of the Indian person's surname is the same as the name of the artist. Name not used by the surviving family line is probably the biggest clue here. As an added clue, I'll just say that some of you might blame the individual if you don't get the answer. Is all I'll say as we move quickly to question number 7. HOK, or Helmut Obata and Casabon, is an American design, architecture, engineering, and urban planning firm founded in 1955. In the 1980s, they spun off one of their arms, which is later renamed to Populous. HOK is famous for a variety of projects, with one of which was the largest of its kind in the world until earlier this year. In fact, the massive expansion of the new record holder, located in an Indian state, was itself a result of the then CM of that state being informed of the size of this particular establishment that HOK worked on. Which facility in India, which establishment was the earlier record holder? So think of the fact that earlier this year, there was a record-breaking establishment that was started in India, somewhere in India. So then CM of that state thought it would be a good idea to take this particular establishment and expand it and make it the world's largest of its kind after he heard of this particular project. And in fact, Populous was actually involved in the development of this project in India. So which two establishments are we talking about? One used to be the largest of its kind. Now this one is the largest of its kind. Need both the establishments in your answer.
One part of this answer is not in India.
One part of this answer is, in fact, in a different country where a lot of attention is paid these days. Moving on to question number 8. So in the next slide, you'll see two characters from a 2003 movie inspired by a literary work. This is not the only movie inspired by the same author, by the director. Although less in number compared to the literary inspiration, these characters influence the movie's outcome at various points, thus drawing parallels to the literary inspiration. So who was the inspiration for these characters? These characters were also the inspiration for an iconic fictional music group. So now we'll go to the next slide. So these are the characters, two police officers, Nasruddin Shah and Opri. So these two individuals were based on a specific set of characters from the original literary inspiration. The original literary inspiration is also inspired a fictional music group. So the helpful hint here is that this movie is not this only one inspired by the same author by the director. So same author has led to the inspiration of multiple movies, the works of one person. So who could that possibly be? Pick the right work given the timeline of the movie, pick the right work and the right movie. Then go back to the literary inspiration and think of what exactly fits. I just need the original literary inspiration, nothing more. I don't need the movie, the fictional music group, nothing. Just the original literary inspiration.
So if it helps, the most recent entry to this list by the director, where he directed a movie which was inspired from the author in question, was in 2014.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to the next question. Next slide, please. Hello.
Ashwin, I can hear you.
Yeah, for some, yeah, okay. Ninth question. It is formally named after a play by George Bernard Shaw, which itself is named after a Greek mythological character. So when a former Indian PM visited this particular spot in the 1980s, a member of parliament suggested naming it after the PM. When something from about a decade and a half ago from now started, a location about 30 kilometers north from here almost received a certain distinction. So what distinction does this location hold, or ID the location? What almost led to a different location receiving the distinction? So we can figure out the location based on who the PM could possibly be at this point in the 1980s. Then you can easily figure out what location we're talking about. Then think of what event from about 15, 16 years ago from now would have led to a certain distinction from this location. Rahul, do you want to add on? Hello, did we lose the slide?
Did the sharing stop?
Yeah, I guess so. Hold on.
Please reshare the slides.
Yeah.
Who is sharing the slides?
Abhinav was sharing the slides.
Yeah, is he resharing it, or Rahul or Ashwin, if you have the slides?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, we're trying to figure. Oh yeah, okay, he's back. All right, Rahul, do you want to add on?
No. So the location was renamed after someone sometime in 1980s, and it also holds a certain distinction, a very, let's say, geographical distinction, and is named after a person. So sometime something from more than roughly a decade and a half ago, something happened which almost led to a different location receiving this distinction. A certain event happened which almost led to this place losing its distinction, whatever it had before the event. Something that happened a decade and a half ago.
With that, we move on to the 10th question.
Can we go to the next slide?
Binu, next slide, please.
He lost his connection.
Okay, maybe his connection is patchy. Can someone else?
Yeah. We're working on it.
You have the set. Ashwin, do you have the set?
Oh yeah, I have it. Just a second.
We'll ask him to stop the sharing then.
Yeah. Sorry about the technical glitch. Really did not see this one coming. But not much we can do. An online quiz. You'll just give me a moment.
So meanwhile, people who are watching on YouTube, thanks for joining us in the quiz today. Please do subscribe to the channel. There will be more quizzes. There is a quiz on arts by Rahul Mohanty tomorrow at 11 a.m. Do participate in that quiz as well. I will be sharing details of this in the chat. You can register and participate in the quiz tomorrow. There are more quizzes being planned in the next weekend and in future days. So please do subscribe and support this channel. Ashwin, you can share the screen now.
Yeah, I'm facing some glitch. Just a moment. I'm trying to do something. Yeah, okay. So I guess I'll share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen. Right.
Oh, you started sharing?
No. Just a second. Okay. We'll start from the 10th question since we have had ample time for the 9th. Should be able to see my screen right about now. All right. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, it's visible and you're audible.
Wonderful. So sorry about that glitch, but we're back on track and hopefully we'll get out real soon. So moving on, question number 10. One of sound designers, Nakul Kamte's most challenging project was to shoot the cricket match in the movie Lagan. In order to obtain authentic sound effect, he went on to record sound from an India-Australia cricket match played in the Wankhede Stadium. However, even after shooting for about 8 hours, 95% of the recording was deemed unfit for use for the movie, for a number of reasons. What was said to be the biggest reason behind this wastage? Something that was part of world cricket for a few decades was said to be the biggest reason behind the wastage of the sound.
We would like to have a couple of, one proper noun in the answer. Something that you would probably encounter during the time Lagan was shot, and even a decade after that or before. So during the shooting of Lagan, Nakul Kamte is said to have posted almost 5 kilometers of wire beneath the ground for shooting Lagan. So one thing he lacked was the original crowd shouting and all that. So that's why Amir Khan did something, and with its contacts, Nakul Kamte went on to records out from the India-Australia cricket match played at Wankhede Stadium sometime in 2000s. So even after shooting for almost 8 hours throughout the day, 95% of the recording was deemed unfit. But almost, 1.5 minutes of footage was usable, which Nakul Kamte ended up using. So the question is, what is said to have been the biggest reason behind this wastage. There were minor reasons, but something was said to be the biggest wastage of something. Something that is part of world cricket for more than roughly few years, more than 2 decades. What is said to be the biggest reason? We're looking for one proper noun in the answer and a couple of keywords. We're talking about sound and all that. So keep that in mind and put down one answer.
All right. With that, we move on to question number 11. So, question number 11. 2 of the books written by him have 2 different national symbols included in their title. The first of which got him international acclaim. One of his other books details a period of 7 years with the 2 ends of the period involving the members from the same family. So, who is this author? Second book is actually a short story published in the New Yorker. So the first one has a variant of a national symbol, not the exact national symbol, but a variant of the national symbol in the title. And that one got him international acclaim. The second one has a different national symbol and it details a period of 7 years. So there's one end of the period, something happened, and later someone from the same family experienced the same thing 7 years later. So just give me who is the author, nothing more. Just the author.
The question could have featured in our previous quiz. It's an added clue.
All right, we'll move on to question number 12. This animal, the largest Asian among the members of a certain subset of animals, are found throughout India, primarily in the woodlands. The extreme reverence with which the Tharu people held the animal is believed to be the reason for a part of its name, while the other part of its name comes from the color of the male's coat. Which animal are we talking about? Its name has 2 parts. It's one word, but that can be divided into 2 parts. One part comes from the fact that the male of this animal has a peculiar colored coat, or rather a shade of a particular color. And the second part comes from the fact that the Tharu people hold it with so much reverence comparable to a different kind of reverence for a different kind of being. So think of what else is revered so much in India. Translate appropriately and come up with a nice creative answer that also involves a color as well. Also translated appropriately. What animal are we talking about here? The largest among the members of a certain subset of animals. Not particularly relevant, but might methemoglobinemia is a condition wherein hemoglobin, the molecule in the red blood cell that distributes oxygen to the human body, is unable to release oxygen effectively to body tissue. In a piece by Down to Earth, the author jokingly states that he hopes the appearance of a certain class of individuals has nothing to do with this particular genetic disorder. The contextual explanation for this appearance is that their limitless nature is perceived in a certain form by the human eye. So what anomaly in appearance is being talked about here? So think of what could happen, what change in appearance could happen if blood flow is restricted to parts of our body, especially when oxygen is restricted to parts of our body. What could happen? What change in appearance could happen? Then think of what class of individuals are famously depicted with this particular appearance. The contextual explanation is that they're limitless. Also very much helpful in figuring out what this answer is. Just an idea will do. This is the funda will do. Of course, we'll need at least a couple of operative words, but what we are essentially looking for is a funda. Anomaly in appearance. In one particular case, the anomaly in appearance even goes beyond one of the individual's names. So there's a certain class of individuals. One of them has a name which indicates that their appearance is not like what they're depicted to be. This is one particular case. Of course, there are many other individuals in this particular class, but what exactly are we looking at here? What kind of anomaly are we talking about? Your answer could be roughly like a question. Moving on to question number 14. Taxi Fabric, headed by Sanket Avlani, has for close to 5 years been working to make the seats of Mumbai taxis a canvas for their art. The goal is to bring art to the streets and into a Mumbaikar's daily commute, one taxi at a time. Sometime in October 2015, Mr. Avlani was responsible for providing a particular artistic taxi to a group of Britishers for their latest creation centered around Holi. Where would one have seen this specific taxi? So this is the taxi. Rahul, do you want to add up?
Take a good look at the background of the taxi, the setting and all that. So sometime in 2015, Sanketa Avlani provided a artistic taxi, the same taxi with blue backgrounds and all that, for a certain creation of a group of Britishers that was centered around Holi. What specific creation by a group of Britishers are we talking about? Can you go back to this? Question? Can you go back to this? Yeah. So Mr. Avlani's taxi fabric was responsible for providing a certain blue taxi for a group of Britishers for their latest creation in 2015-16 period. So where would have one seen this specific taxi? We'll accept the creation by whom, as in for what purpose did Avlani provide his taxi?
All right. With that, we'll move on to the last 6 questions of the set. Question number 15. There were many varieties of these in India almost 100 years ago. Some say as many as 130. Now there are only 37. Certain breeds are nearing extinction. The population of the Kangayam variety was over 1 million compared to 15,000 today. The Alambadi has been officially declared extinct. This fall in number is attributed to a controversial ban on something a few years ago. Despite the activists ranting on about the negative aspects of this matter, the ban actually leads to a depletion of numbers, eventually leading to extinction of various breeds. This traces back to people losing their incentives to sustaining the breeds, all thanks to the ban. What is this ban? Something that became very relevant very recently are we talking about? So what causes the fall in population? Don't you know?
So please don't be confused. It's a two-part question. So what ban? So this whatever we are talking about came into relevance for a very different reason recently, and yeah, even the second part is kind of related to the reason why it became popular very recently. So the activists always talk about negative aspects of this thing, and they always talk about why this should be banned. But on the other side, this ban has actually a lot of negative aspects, which one of which is it leads to a depletion in numbers of certain breeds, and even eventually leading to extinction. The ban we are talking about was imposed sometime in the early part of the last decade. So what was banned, and what specifically caused the fall in population? So both the parts, you can connect it with its relevance, why something that became relevant very recently. You can connect both parts of the question to that, whatever was the reason for its relevance.
Wasn't the ban lifted, or the state government found a way?
Yeah, it was lifted. It was later lifted after a couple of years
Okay.
by Supreme Court, I guess. So it's still in practice. The ban was lifted. It was imposed sometime in 2013-14. It was lifted after a couple of years. And during the period of that, something caused the fall in population. So what was the reason for fall in population, and what ban are we talking about? Ashwin, we can move on.
Let's move on. A lot of objections coming in. Number 16. After suffering a huge setback that plunged him into a phase of depression, he accepted an invitation from K. Govinda Menon, conservator of Forest, Cochin State, his classmate at Oxford, to travel to Thrissur. He stayed for 21 days in Thrissur for an elaborate Ayurveda treatment, which was supervised by the famous Kaikatamus. He went on his mandatory evening walks, ate homemade food, and left a cheerful man. This must have been his only visit to India, says V. N. Venugopal, grandson of Govinda Menon. So who was this particular man? Eponymously portrayed by a frequently rejected individual in a 1962 4-hour-long movie. Rejected individual could be the most helpful part of the question.
Yeah, please don't be confused and give us the name of the rejected individual. We are looking for the subject of the 4-hour movie, or the person who came to Thrissur and all that. Please don't be confused with that. Who was this man? Either you can give his name, proper name, or his more popular nickname, which is also the title of the 1962 movie. Credits to Mohammad Munawir from Mains Delhi for the question. Who was this person that came to India sometime in 1950s? No, actually the movie is from 1962 only. To clarify, Annie
Not the
Bean's
exact
doubt.
name of the person, you can also give the name of the movie.
This is also
just the first name of the person won't do anyway. Yeah. So might as well hedge your bets with the movie. So yeah, anonymously portrayed by a rejected individual. Last bit of the clues that we'll be giving out. Moving on to question number 17. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 proved to be a terribly skewed battle, with the Bengal army had been bribed by the British Colonel Robert Clive. Most of the Bengal army simply deserted Nawab Sirajuddaulah. So astounding was his fortune that Clive attributed it to Providence and sought to give thanks to the Lord. Unfortunately, the only church in the town of Calcutta had been destroyed by the Nawab. At the moment, Clive's Persian interpreter and clerk, a zamindar named Namakrishna Dev, stepped up and hosted Clive at his mansion. So what other celebration was carried out by Clive that later became an occasion of hobnobbing between the Raj and the Zamindars and continues to this day.
So after the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive was so elated that he wanted to pay his obeisance to the gods. This could not happen because the only church in Bengal state was destroyed by the Nawab. So his interpreter Namakrishna Dev gave him an alternative way of celebrating, which was carried out by Clive. So after a couple of few decades, the event became an occasion of socializing between the Raj and the Zamindars, and the practice or the celebration continues to this day. Right, we have a couple of objections, so I won't be giving any further clues on that. So just tell us what celebration was carried out by Clive after the Battle of Plassey, something that continues to this day.
Alright, we'll now move on to question number 18. So this particular term originated from a Gujarati word that meant Bengali and was used to refer to certain establishments that were built in the Bengali style. The English first used the term for the modest dwellings of their sailors in India. Later, it took on exotic connotations, portraying the British Raj officials' lodgings. Only after the First World War did developers begin to use the term again to designate smaller houses with all the members living on one particular floor. So what term originated from this? So what would you get if you find a Gujarati word that meant Bengali? Or what establishments were built in the Bengali style? How do they met and how can these days? Just one word will do for your answer.
One single word that stands for certain establishments. And ironically, that came from the Gujarati word for Bengali. Gujarati word that meant Bengali. It's an umbrella term for a couple of establishments. So, yeah, we have a couple of objections as well. No more clues on this. Yeah, you can move on. Yes.
Going on to the penultimate question of the set. So the next slide will show you something. You have to figure out which work of literature is this, or you have to identify the author. And you have to also tell us what does the 18 chapters of the book signify. So these are the 18 chapters of the book. The first book, the second book, The Jewel in the Crown, the third book, When the Rains Came, fourth book, Karaj's Portrait, and so on and so forth until 18 chapters. What do these 18 chapters signify? Why the specific number 18?
There are two possible answers for the second part of why the book has 18 chapters. I'll wait for a few minutes if there are any objections, else I'll give clues.
Actually, three. Any of the three is fine.
Yeah.
Three possible answers for the second part. And two possible answers because we can either identify the book or the author of the first part. Need both in your answer.
Yeah, either give us the work of literature or the famous author. We have one objection. Yeah, we have a couple of objections. Not give any more hints. So as simple as that. Which work of literature or identify the author, or Ashwin, can you go back to this? The question is just that either identify which work of literature or its author, And for the second part, what signifies the 18 chapters of this book? 18 chapters signifies the very plot of this book.
We'll need you to give a fairly concrete answer. A rational explanation as to why 18, given the nature of the book. So moving on to the final question, after which we will have a rollback. The 2016 demonetization has affected the lives of people from all walks of life in many ways, one of which was an incentive to cashless transactions. Arun Raman, author of books like Skyfire, once wrote a story sometime in December 2016, where he looks at the period from the POV of a certain Murugan. With the increased urge by the government to insisting everyone to go cashless, was a beating to Murugan, who was a master of observation. The practitioners of Murugan's profession took a hit, as their line of work wouldn't allow them to survive in a cashless economy. So what particular profession that requires the abilities of an artist was Murugan practicing?
One of the most workoutable questions of this list. So Arun Raman, sometime in the aftermath of the demonetization, wrote a story which was supposedly based on a real life incident. So he looks at the period from the point of view of a certain Murugan who used to follow a certain profession, which I know if you can say that it requires the abilities of an artist to survive in the field. He was a master of observation, and as a direct effect of the demonetization, people were encouraged to go to a cashless mode of transactions. This was a beating to Murugan and the practitioners of Murugan's profession. So just tell me, what profession? How did Murugan earn his daily bread?
This is a very specific answer for this one. A generic answer won't do. So if the answer is something like trapeze artist, merely saying circus performer is not enough. You need to tell me that he is a trapeze artist. All right, now we'll quickly do a rollback, after which we will be closing the forms. So this is number 20. What was Murugan's profession? Number 19. What do the 18 chapters of this book signify, and which book is this? Number 18. What term came from the Gujarati word that meant Bengali? Number 17. What celebration was carried out by Robert Clive and became an occasion of hobnobbing between the Raj and the Zamindas? Number 16. Who was this person portrayed by a rejected individual, frequently rejected individual, in a 4-hour-long 1962 movie? Movie or the person will do. What band are we talking about in this case? Went from 130 varieties to 37. And what caused the fall in population of whatever this is? Where would you have seen this taxi? That's question number 14. Question number 14. Where would you have seen this particular taxi? Number 13. What anomaly in appearance is being hoped by authors from Down to Earth is not a side effect of methemoglobinemia? In context, they say that it's because of their limitless nature. Question number 12. Which animal, the largest Asian among the members of the certain subset? The Tharo people hold it in extreme reverence. Number 11. 2 books. One is a short story, one is a full-fledged novel. One got him international acclaim, and the other details a period of 7 years. Both books feature national symbols. Number 10. What was the biggest reason for the wastage of the 8-hour-long sounds recorded by Naval Committee from the India-Australia tour? Something very famous. Number 9. What distinction does this particular location named after an Indian Prime Minister hold? Or you can identify the location. What happened almost 16 years ago, which almost led to a different location receiving the distinction. Number 8, these two characters are inspired by which literary characters? They're characters in a 2003 movie. They're inspired by characters who outnumber these two. And those characters also have also inspired an iconic fictional music group. Number 7, what project did HOK work on that was the largest of its kind outside India? Then Populous, the arm of HOK, came to India and worked on a certain project that came out to the public earlier this year, which in turn became the largest of its kind in the world. So HOK was involved in both the largest and the second largest of a certain establishment. What are these two establishments? Number 6, who was this Rococo painter who painted Venice, Rome, and London? Second part, a part of this painter's name is also the root for which famous Indian surname? No longer used by his surviving family line. Number 5, what decision came out because UP and Bihar are the populous states in India and a certain location had extreme cultural significance, etc., etc. So what decision was a result of all of this? Number 4, what nickname was given or what humorous expansion was given to TVK? Number 3, who is this individual from Tirupati? What was the epithet of Murugan that he used in his works? Number 2, what project led to Shivana Samudra Falls getting approval very quickly after 5 years? And number 1, who designed the sculpture of your left and has an achievement that is similar to the person that you see on the right? The designer of this sculpture was the only one with that achievement until recently when this guy got that same. This is the question. Who designed it and what achieved? So now the time is 8:56. So we'll be closing the form 8:57. Sorry. We'll be closing the forms at 8:59. If anybody wants to see any specific questions, do let us know in the chat box.
You can start submitting the answers.
We start submitting the answers because we'll be discussing.
If there are any grievances, please put down those.
Okay, someone wants to see question number 19. Sure, we'll show you question number 19. So this is 19. This is the helpful bit. I will go back to the HOK question once the person takes a look at the question number 19. 18 chapters. Where can you see this? And what does it signify? In both parts for a full 1 point. So now we'll go back to question number 7, which was the HOK question, and then we'll show you question number 12 as well. This is question number 7, HOK. HOK worked on something, And then a subsidiary of HOK worked on something in India. So that was question number 7. Now we'll show you question number 12, which is the largest Asian among the members of a certain subset. Tharo people hold it in extreme reverence. So which animal are we talking about? All right. So, okay, we'll show you question 2. This will be the last question that we'll show you, and we'll then close the form. So, yeah, this is question number 2. Where would you have, what did Shivana Samudra project end up assisting? Where would you use the power from this course? And that's it. That's it for the quiz. We'll be closing the form in exactly 10 seconds from now. And then we'll proceed to the answer discussion.
Hello, I have received 47. No, 48.
Okay, 47 responses so far.
49.
We'll wait a little bit and we'll see.
Meanwhile, thank you everyone for joining the quiz on YouTube. Do subscribe to the channel. There will be a quiz on arts, Pigments of Imagination, a quiz on arts by Rahul Mohanty tomorrow at 11 a.m. Do join us for that quiz as well. Also, I believe Quiz Geeks is planning for more quizzes in December and in January. Do join us for those quizzes as well.
So, yeah, with that, we'll get on with the answer discussion. As always, we'll keep it a little bit interactive. You guys can give your answers in the comment box.
Yeah, so guys, the forms are closed. If you
Can I close?
Yeah, close the form. Close the form.
I received 55 now. Sorry, 53 now.
53, yeah, good enough. So we can start sharing the answers. So answer time. First one, who designed Jatayu Earth Center's nature park, the sculpture, and what particular achievement was attributed to him until recently?
Okay, we have an answer.
An answer from Shayantan, who says Rajiv Anchal, and Kalyani says Rajiv Anchal and Malayalam movies with Oscar entries. Good enough. So Rajiv Anchal was the director of Guru, which used to be the only Malayalam movie that was nominated for an Academy Award in the International Feature Film category. Now, of course, Jallikattu, directed by Lijo Jose Pelsheri, got nominated for the same award from India. So that's what we were looking for.
Ashwin, what is this movie Guru
by
about?
everyone in the chat box. There's Krishna Arpit, Gayatri, Sri Charan, Navneet. So moving on to question number 2.
Just hold on, Ashwin. I have seen Jallikattu. What is this movie Guru about? Is it worth watching?
It's a really good.
Yeah, it's actually it's kind of an alternative reality kind of story. Mohanlal actually goes on to help a group of people who lose their eyesight because they ate that fruit, and eventually Mohanlal also then goes on to lose his eyesight, and later he wakes up. It's kind of something that you would expect to go for an Oscar.
Okay, got it.
Meanwhile, a lot of answers coming in for the second question. Navneet, Srikari, Nathan, Arka, all these people. Not nominated for an Academy Award, but India's entry to Oscar. But we'll be lenient on that as long as you get the idea right. But the Malayalam movie part needs to be there because we said it's specific to that language. Yeah, India's entry. The answer we're looking for is nothing but KGF or the Kolar goldfields, which required immense amount of power. So they decided to expedite the high level station. So that's what we were looking for. Good job, all of those who cracked it in the chat box. Moving on. Who was this individual from Tirupati and what particular epithet was being used by him?
So this is an interesting question. Muthuswami
This is one
Dikshitar.
of my favorite questions given. I studied Carnatic music for a year, so that's the root for this particular question.
Oh, okay.
So Tirupati is famous for being the hometown of none other than Muthuswami Dikshitar, himself named for one of the epithets of Murugan. Then it is said that Murugan's encouragement is why he took to Carnatic music. He is of course part of the classical trio of Carnatic musicians. Tyagaraja Swamigal and Shyamashastrigal both wrote in Telugu, which is why I said Tamil would help you narrow it a little bit further.
Nice question.
And
Gayatri.
Guru Guha is the epithet of Murugan that he uses in all his works to indicate that he is the one who wrote these works.
Gayatri Warrior got it correct.
Yeah. So moving on. Question number. Sorry, slide is different. So this is what we were looking for question number 4. This was tax, and kill. TTK became tax, and kill because he essentially
Imposed a lot of taxes on top of personal income tax. So TTK was expanded to tax, and kill. He also went on to set up the TTK group.
moving on to the next question. What decision are we talking about? UP and Bihar being the populous states of India. So what kind of metrics in India are a function of the population of particular regions?
Wait for
You can
people
also
to
look at
answer.
which part of an interesting wrong answer for the previous question that chat box is saying two tax clan. Nice.
Pranav.
I wish I could give points, but sadly, the answer wants what it wants.
Chhattisgarh and Uttarakhand.
Not quite what we're looking for. First half of the previous decade would be the 2010s.
Division of states.
So back in 2013, the BJP decided that they'll nominate one Mr. Narendra Modi as their prime minister candidate. Eventually, by 2014, he decided that he'll contest the election from Varanasi despite being from Gujarat. So that's the exact answer that we're looking for. Narendra Modi contesting the election from Varanasi.
So eventually he went on to contest the elections from Varanasi and Baroda, but he later decided to retain Varanasi and resign from Baroda.
I think no
Modi's
one.
election is good enough. Actually, no, we'll get you half a point. Modi's election will get you half a point. Modi contesting the elections from Varanasi had to be that. So, moving on. Who is this artist? And who is this Indian? So let's see what the chat says. Navneet comes ridiculously close to the answer. So the artist is none other than Canal Eto. Eto is the part that means little. And Nehru.
Yeah, Nahar means canal.
So Canal Eto and Jawaharlal Nehru is what we are looking for. Either will get you half a point. Nehru is the root word, Nehru. So Canal and Nehru
Actually, we need Canaletto and Nehru. So either both will get you some points. In fact, if someone decided to do us one better and write Motilal and Nehru as well, we would have still given you points. Okay. So moving on. Which two facilities in India and outside India are we looking at?
Motera and Melbourne. I don't think
Motera and Melbourne is good enough. So HOK was part of the MCG5 that worked on the Melbourne cricket ground. So when HOK spun off their sports ventures arm as HOK Sports Venture, which later got renamed to Populous, they were invited to work on the famous Motera Cricket Stadium. Back when Narendra Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat, he had heard of the MCG's size and capacity and said, okay, we'll take the Motera's capacity from 50,000 to 110,000. So that's how this happened. Not MCC, but MCG. One typo that might cost you half a point. Motera Stadium is in Ahmedabad and MCG is in Melbourne. Ideally, we should have asked this question next month when the Boxing Day test was going on. So moving on to the next question. So who are the inspiration behind these particular characters from a literary work?
Macbeth, says Shayantan.
The movie is, of course, Makbul, which is in turn inspired from Macbeth. So Macbeth has the characters called the weird witches. So the weird witches is what we were looking for. The three witches, the weird witches, something along these lines. These characters in turn also inspired the weird sisters from Harry Potter. So that was the fictional music group. So weird witches, three witches, something along these lines will get you points.
Vinyas Ranjal has answered Weird Sisters.
A little bit iffy on that. Can't really say whether or not to give points.
Okay.
Okay. What was formerly named after a play by George Shaw?
We'll accept actually two answers for the first one. The identify part.
Indira Point seems to be the popular answer. Shayantan, Vinyas.
Yeah,
so
clarification for the previous question, only weird witches will get you points. Macbeth, weird, anything else won't get you points. Only the weird witches will get you points. And this one is, of course, 0 point, the southernmost tip of the Indian territory.
And the reason being the 2004 tsunami, which almost led it being submerged underwater. So we'll accept Indira Point or Pygmalion Point for identification part, or even the southernmost tip of Indian territory, and the Indian Ocean tsunami. Yeah, Ashwin, we'll speed up a little.
Number 10. This was a 10 question. So what would this
yeah, one of my favorite questions. We have an audio for this.
Oh, no, we don't have audio.
Right.
I play it if you want.
Yeah, you can play. You can play it.
People have answered.
I can just
Okay,
play.
one sec. Just please wait for 1 sec.
Yeah, I will. Right, so the Dilip Kamte wished that American's character in Lagan was named Sachin and not Bhuvan. It would have been much more product there. act in Wankhede would have been much more predictive, because the crowd, of course, was chanting Sachin, Sachin all around. So yeah, that was the very reason why 85.
Much like what you can hear here. Because of the presence of Sachin shouts, much of the sound was rendered indifferent. Number 11, who was this author and what are we talking about here?
I think one of these movies is being made into a movie, right? Books is being made into a movie.
Yeah, so the reason we said this could have been featured in the previous quizzes because this is none other than Aravind Adiga. And our previous quiz was actually titled Selection Day, hence the previous quiz reference. And of course, the books, the novel is of course the White Tiger, a variant of a national symbol, and the short story is called The Elephant, which details the 7-year period between Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi's assassination, one in 1984 and the other in 1991. We got. Which animal is this? The largest among the members of a certain subset in Asia.
Nilgai, says Shanta.
This is, of course, the male guy. They hold it in almost as much reverence as a cow. And the males of the species develop a bluish coat once they mature. And that's the reason for why this animal is called nilgai.
Okay, let's move to
now,
next.
Number 30, one of my favorite questions of the set. So what are we talking about?
Midun Zakaria says blue whale.
Not blue whale. No. Vinyas and Dhananjay have hit the answer right on the mark. So this is the contextual explanation for why Hindu gods are depicted as blue. The down-to-earth people hope that it's not a result of the medical condition. While in context, most of the Puranas actually detail that because the gods are limitless, the human eye can only see them as blue. So this is an explanation for why Hindu gods are depicted as blue. Of course, the contradiction is that in the case of Krishna, Krishna actually means dark, but he is also depicted as blue. So Krishna blue color, Ram and Shiva are depicted as blue, all that is one. Moving on to the next question. Where would you have seen this particular taxi?
Something that released in January 2016. It was shot in October 2015, around that period of time.
Yeah.
This is Him for the Weekend by Coldplay. This is the taxi in which Chris Martin travels throughout the shooting of Him for the Weekend. It is also centered around Holi. It had cameos by Beyonce and Sonam Kapoor. So we were looking for Him for the Weekend by Coldplay, released in 2016 January.
Good answer, Arkady.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, number 50. What was this ban and what causes the fall in population?
So the ban came into effect in 2014. So look, keeping in mind the nature of breeds that were used for these, they were bulls, so they wouldn't actually give milk. So it was also feeding a bull was pretty costly affair. So the only option they had was to slaughter them, send them to slaughterhouses. So the ban we are talking about is a ban on jellicate. that was imposed in 2014. And what caused this population was them being slaughtered for meat.
So what they're looking for, delicate.
And the bulls being sent to slaughterhouses.
So who is this
Well,
particular individual? If I
So
want to
it-
see by
once
a
you-
selected individual.
Yeah, once you figure out the movie, it would be fairly easy. So this is indeed
Of course.
Lawrence of Arabia, or T.E. Lawrence, portrayed by Peter O'Toole in the 1962 movie Lawrence of Arabia. So T.E. Lawrence is said to have visited Kerala in sometime in the late 1950s, where he underwent treatment under psychotomies and all that. So either T.E. Lawrence or Lawrence of Arabia will fetch you points. Peter O'Toole will not fetch you any points. We specifically mentioned that please don't get confused with that.
Number 17, what other celebration was followed by Robert Clive?
Something that took place around roughly a month ago. Latest edition took place roughly a month ago. Yeah, so this is indeed the Durga Puja celebration in Bengal, or Durga Puja celebrations, which was ironically started by the British after the Battle of Plassey. So Durga Puja will fetch you one.
Number 18, what term came from a Gujarati word meaning Bengal? What word came from a Gujarati? Bungalows, right?
So Gujarati word for bungalow was bungalow. So pretty straightforward. So these establishments were referred to as bungalow. Right, so the penultimate question of today's quiz.
So what work of literature features these 18 chapters?
So it was the author's very first book. He went on to publish 17 more.
Of course, Shashi Tharoor and the 18 days of Mahabharata. Yep. The other acceptable answers was 18 Parvas of Mahabharata and of course the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita as well. Three possible answers, any of which will get you half a point. And of course, for the other part, you have to give us either Shashi Tharoor or the Great Indian Novel.
The Great Indian Novel was a recasting of the Mahabharata into the setting of Indian independence and the next 4 decades. So that's why he put down such an Easter egg. Yeah, move on, Ashwin. Okay, move on.
So what was the profession of the artist that was Murugan?
They wouldn't be able to survive in a cashless economy unless they are very learned men who has adapted to modern day technology and all that.
Midun Zakaria says beggars, Shabir says pickpocketer.
Yeah, so these are indeed pickpocketers. They wouldn't be able to pickpockets and find cash and later dispose the rest of things. People would, mostly depend upon online transactions and credit cards, and that's how they fell out of favor. And yeah, that was pickpocketing.
So that was it for our set on India. So we hope to see you on December 12th for our next quiz, which will be based on the themes of food, art, and travel. So we hope to see you all there.
And thanks
And
everyone.
with that, we have come to the end of today's session.
Yeah.
I trust all of you had a nice time. Feel free to reach out to us for any feedback.
And do join us for the quiz on arts tomorrow at 11 a.m. It's done by Rahul Mohanty. So please participate in that quiz as well. A lot of positive feedback. Ashwin, superb, says Navneet, nice set, lovely set. Quiz is amazing, says Rohan Roy. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Feedback. We'll be announcing the results very soon. So please stay tuned for that as well. And with that, we take your leave. Have a nice day.
Thank you everyone. Good night.